Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Caramel Sportscast. I'm your host, Steven Avalos, alongside my dad
Hello.
and my good friend Marissa.
Hi.
And today we're going to go over the dramatic finish of the World Series in Game 6, where the Dodgers came out victorious. We're going to talk about decisions made in that game. Very controversial.
And I got to tell you, I predicted everything right, the entire series and playoffs. So thank you, me.
No. And then we're going to go over how we did last week in our picks and make our picks for the next one. So, let's just get straight to it. Why did they take out Snell? Oh, man.
That is the elephant in the room.
Yeah, there's not much else to talk about, really. And, Snell, he was, rolling through for the first 5 innings. He just looks so dominant, making, the Dodgers lineup looks so bad at the plate. They were whiffing at everything. What do you have, 9 strikeouts?
I think they said 9 of the 12 outs were strikeouts.
Yeah, that's phenomenal.
And actually, as both teams, I think they were on record. They were on pace to set a record for strikeouts in a game. I don't know how they ended up, but at the beginning, first 4 innings, they've a lot of strikeouts.
Yeah, and then bringing in the 6th inning, you kind of wonder what his leash is going to be. You would think that, knowing the Rays, they might have a short leash on him just to have how they are. They're an analytics-heavy team. But you still think but he's doing so well, and he's got a low pitch count. He was, in the 70s, I think, when he came into that inning. And he gets an out, and then next guy, Allen, I think, or Barnes gets a hit.
Barnes.
Yeah, Barnes gets a hit on him, and then he's out. You see Cash come in, and you kind of feel it, too. The moment that hit comes in, it's like, oh, are they going to take him out? And they did.
And I immediately said, Dodgers won.
Yeah, and I texted you, Marissa, oh, no, this is not good. And so what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much when Cash came out and you could see Snell was visibly upset, you knew the game was over. He was dominating that entire game. He made Betts, Seager, and Turner look silly for their first 2 at-bats. And, everybody around the whole country can't understand why they took him out. It's just mind-blowing.
Well, there was a theory, too, that the upper management was in charge of that whole thing, taking him out after a certain amount of batters.
Yeah, even Susan Slusser, who covers the A's on the San Francisco Chronicle, even she felt that was a very good chance that was the case.
Yeah, I mean, he gave it a weak-old hit to the number 9 batter. Betts was up next, and he dominated him the entire game. He made him, like Marissa said, made him look silly. And we have another thing about Turner. Would you like to talk further about that?
That was really weird as well, and that could really turn out bad for many people, especially on the Dodgers, because Turner was pulled out of the game, and no one really knew why. They thought maybe he just tweaked something, maybe he just hurt or wanted to put someone in for him, because Turner was having a pretty good series, especially in the first inning. He was getting lots of homers in the first inning, and you kind of wonder why they took him out, and then you realize later, oh, by the way, he tested positive. There were still questions on how it was, because they said he was asymptomatic later on, and so it's okay, what are the chances that it's a false?
And at what point did they test him?
Yeah, how do you find out mid game from this? Why is this not revealed earlier?
Yeah, and you know if there's some kind of they were hiding something from everybody or what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it all looks pretty suspicious. I think I read on Twitter somewhere that he had at least 2 tests, and one of them came back inconclusive, and the second one was he was positive for COVID, and that's why they took him out. And I think I watched Dave Roberts after the game, say that he didn't really know what was happening. He just knew he had to take him out. So I don't know. And I think the decision for Turner to come back onto the field to celebrate, I don't know.
Irresponsible.
Yeah, because when you look at it, Dave Roberts he's a cancer survivor, and Kenley Jansen's had heart problems, and you don't really know anything else about the Dodgers family members. I don't know. I think it's pretty irresponsible, but I can also see where you're so excited, you won the World Series, but I don't know.
You don't want to risk anybody's life.
My big question is how was he even allowed? Like, how did he even get through? Because I would have thought that if he tested positive, they would have stopped him from doing that. But
quarantine.
Yeah, I thought that's what I thought it was. I thought he wasn't. I didn't think he was in the stadium. I thought they were taking him to a hospital or something like that, or like what Dad said, quarantine. So that's just pretty bizarre and very 2020 like.
Anyway, all of our picks ended up. Marissa and Steven both had
winning records.
Tampa Bay. Well, you guys both wanted Tampa Bay to win it, right?
I thought you were talking about NFL picks. My bad. No, yeah. So I wanted Tampa Bay to win. I think you had the Dodgers still, didn't you?
I wanted Tampa Bay to win, but I did have the Dodgers winning.
Yeah, I had Tampa Bay in 7.
I had the A's and Padres in the finals, and when neither of those teams materialized, I just said, let's go California, and wanted the Dodgers to win. Plus, the Dodgers had got screwed over the last 2 times they were in the World Series by both the Red Sox and the lowly Houston Astros.
Yeah,
They deserve this win. Come on, guys.
Yeah, same thing for Clayton Kershaw, too. He's someone that's been ridiculed so much for his past postseason performances, but this year he went 4-1, and especially in the World Series, he just looks phenomenal.
I didn't know he was that much of a humanitarian.
Oh, yeah, they were talking a lot about that.
I found out today, but I didn't know about this previous.
Yeah. So, good player and a good person. So, yeah, you got to be really happy for someone like him.
Yeah, it's really good for Kershaw. I think he's probably my favorite Dodger, which is hard to say. And Kenley Jansen, too. I think he really deserves it as well.
Oh, Jansen?
Yeah.
Jansen, yeah.
I feel bad for him.
Well, he was a victim of his own circumstance there.
So before we get off the subject of baseball, let's talk about what the highs and lows were for the A's and Giants this year. So, Marissa, would you like to go first?
Sure. Okay, so I'll start off with the highs for the Giants. So a lot of them are actually just individual people. Mike Yastrzemski, I think he would be the best bet for MVP candidate for the Giants if somebody had to pick. He finished with a 297 batting average, 10 home runs, 35 RBIs, and he could possibly get a vote for MVP.
Yeah, incredible player. Wow.
Yeah. He's really great, and he's going to be great in the future for them. Donovan Solano as well. He finished with 326, 3 home runs, 29 RBIs. He's probably going to end up being a trade piece. I think the call-up of Joey Bart was probably a really exciting moment. Not necessarily his performance, but I think all the fans really wanted to see him.
Is that because everybody wants to get rid of Posey?
No.
Oh, okay.
I also think Alyssa Nakin, the coach, the first woman coach in the major leagues to actually be on the field during a game, even though I think it was one of the exhibition games between the A's and the Giants. That's really exciting for girls everywhere who like baseball. It's a really big inspiration. And yet, the Giants almost made the playoffs. They were one game shy of making it. So, I don't know. Let me go to the lows next. Defensively, the Giants were pretty bad this year. They were 6th in majors with errors. They ended up with 42. And they did not have a solid catcher. Like I said, Joey Bart, him getting called up was really exciting for the fans, but you could tell that he was a rookie. They had 2 other catchers, Heineman and Tromp, who contributed to a lot of errors behind the plate. I think they had 4 catchers interferences, but besides that, they just weren't leaders back there. You could tell that the pitchers were missing that pitcher-catcher connection. Cueto and Bart, they could never get on the same page, and I think Bart actually had that problem with a couple other pitchers as well. So I think they're going to need a strong, reliable catcher in Buster Posey next year. I also think that the Giants they really need to get a closer, a defined closer, because last year they ended up blowing way too many saves, and they had 2 or 3 guys they would throw out there. They never announced who was actually their closer, so that's something that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, because very rarely does the closer by committee work.
Yeah.
If it worked more often, then you'd see it more often, but it doesn't.
I think, for Gabe Kapler's first year, he ended up finishing all right, but I think a lot of the decisions he made early on affected how the Giants were unable to make the playoffs. You know, the bullpen decisions, especially against the A's, that cost a lot of games.
Yes.
So I think he's got some things similar to Kevin Cash that hopefully they'll work on, and hopefully, you know, they'll have a stronger season next year. And I guess the last thing would be how they're going to handle their off season. I don't know. I don't know whether or not they're going to go after free agents, or they're just going to try to build up their farm system. I don't know.
What should they do? Should they? Who do you know any of the free agents that they would? Well, you mentioned the relievers. Are there any relievers that you know of that are up for free agents?
I don't think so, but I think they need starting pitching too. I think that was something they talked about, because they had guys like Gosman, who I don't think they're going to re-sign, unfortunately, even though he says he really wants to be here. Or another guy like Tyler Anderson. They were both pretty good for the Giants this year, but I think they're looking for somebody who can be an ace, because I think Johnny Cueto's contract's running out of time. So they're going to have to look for somebody strong as a starting pitcher. I know Trevor Bauer, I think he's up for free agency. He's looking to go somewhere. I doubt they'll get him. I don't think they're looking to spend money, unfortunately, because they have a lot of money. But I think they're going to really just try to build up their farm system and try to push the old guys out.
So it's going to be another rebuilding?
Yeah, I know that they haven't actually said, hey, we're rebuilding, but that's pretty much what's going on.
Yeah.
All right, so for the A's, it's pretty easy to start off with saying that they actually won a playoff series. That was really nice, you know, winning back-to-back games against the Chicago White Sox when they, you know, were one loss away from elimination. I really enjoyed seeing that, you know, and it was really exciting too. You know, I was pacing around the house the whole time during Game 3.
You were quite animated.
Yeah, really. But we won. We finally won a playoff series. And, you know, if you watch the broadcast, ESPN kept saying, oh, you know, it's been so long since they won a elimination game or a winner-take-all. More specifically, it's just, like, so exhausting to hear that, you know, narrative go through over and over again. And, you know, finally, you know, we won. So it was nice. We got to the next stage. But that also kind of goes into a low, which was how disappointing it was to see them play against the Astros how they did, because, you know, it was such a good opportunity for them to, you know, get their revenge against a team that screwed them over for years now, and their pitching just was not there at all. You know, when any of the starters, including, you know, the entire bullpen, they just all flustered in one way or another, allowing the deep ball, not being able to hold leads. You know, the only bright spot was, you know, and going into another high was Liam Hendricks. And so, you know, someone like Liam Hendricks, you know, considering how he played in the past few years, you know, being designated for assignment in 2018, and then becoming our closer now is really nice. And it's nice to have someone that's more consistent as well, because, you know, A's had Tryon for 2018, and he really fell apart in the next year, you know, 2019. And that's when we had to bring Hendricks in. I wonder, can Hendricks, you know, fill in well enough? Can he be consistent? And, you know, with what he did this year, he said yes. You know, he was really solid, barely blew any leads, and then when it came to the playoffs, he was just amazing, especially his 3-inning save against the Astros, you know, our one win in that series. He was really clutch, and if only there were more situations where he could have been put in, that would have been really nice, but that's not what happened, unfortunately. But either way, you know, I'm really proud of what this team did. And, Dad, do you have any highs and lows you want to discuss?
I'm going to start off with the lows. Ramon Laureano, really disappointed this year with his bat. Right after that fight he got into with the Astros, he really took a downturn. Starting pitching, Montez and...
Montas.
Same thing. Montas, yeah, same thing. Montas and Laureano, Luzardo, excuse me. I think they need another year under their belt to become quality pitchers. Right now, I just don't think they have it. Sean Murphy was a little bit of a surprise back there. Matt Olson, he has to have a better average than what he's hitting. Chapman, his injury decimated the team.
Jake Lamb was a nice fill-in, I will say, but yeah, Chapman did not look nearly as sharp. And the fact that he always had one strikeout in every game he played in was just not good for him at all. He was a whiff machine at times.
I like Grossman. And for the highs, I'd say Grossman, Diekman, and Hendricks came to play every night. They showed up and did what they had to do.
All right, so that pretty much ends our talk with baseball. It's gonna be a while till we talk about baseball again. Actually, we should go into next week. Especially when free agency comes around the corner, which still isn't for a while. But we do look forward to the winter meetings, and we'll have our talks about that. But anyways, on to what I really enjoy doing, which is talking about
You're the only one.
Our football picks. So last week I went 8-6 straight up and 8-6 against the spread. I should just word that differently. Marissa went 9-5 straight up, but 5-9 against the spread.
Ouch.
And then
Right.
my dad went 10-4 straight up and 9-5 against the spread. So he's pulling away further and further from me when it comes to the spread.
Hey, what is the year?
All right, so
What are you
yeah,
at for the year?
for the year I am 70, 34, and 1 straight up, 58, 45, and 2 against the spread. Dad, you are 66, 38, and 1 straight up, 62, 41, and 2 against the spread. Mercer, you are 61, 27, and 1 straight up, but 43, 45, and 1 against the spread.
But I'm a week behind?
Yes.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
So pretty much by the end of the season, we'll probably just bring up the percentage of what you get right to know how you do. But still, with how you are straight up, you're still close to where my dad is. Of course, we can't assume how you would have done in week 1, but
You would have lost every game.
I would have at least lost the Niner game.
yes, we all did.
Yeah.
But anyways, let's go into our picks for week 8 of the NFL season.
First off, Thursday, we have Atlanta at Carolina. Atlanta is 1-6. Carolina is 3-4, and Carolina is favored by 2.5.
All right, so for this one here, I feel pretty much the same way as I did when they played each other earlier this season. Atlanta's defense still isn't really that good. They've tightened up a little bit since they fired Dan Quinn, but they still have that supreme choke factor where they just cannot hold the lead to save their lives, and they just find crazier and crazier ways to blow games. With Todd Gurley getting a touchdown when he wasn't supposed to. You can see the line defenders celebrating the touchdown because they know that means, hey, we get the ball after that. And Matt Stafford really pulled through. A very underrated quarterback. But anyways, no more about Stafford here. So this one here, I'm going to go with Carolina. Bridgewater pulled up a really good effort against these Saints. They only lost by 3. And they did have an opportunity, but, defense couldn't pull through in the end. But, still had to go against Breeze and the Saints. They still have a good offense, even though Breeze is getting older. He has brined up a bit.
Good news for my fantasy teams. Christian McCaffrey might be coming back pretty soon. That's just great overall for Carolina. But I have them in this game winning and covering.
Yeah, so do I.
I got the same thing. Carolina winning and covering.
Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater has been a really good signing for them, and Carolina ended up making the right decision to let go of Cam Newton and signing Teddy Bridgewater. Bridgewater has been an excellent quarterback for them, and his weapons. He's been getting more chemistry with them along the year, and Matt Rule, he's doing fine in his first season as an NFL head coach. His first season can be really tough, especially going from college to NFL, and he's done well enough right now. So yeah, on to the next one.
We have Indianapolis at Detroit. Indianapolis is 4-2. Detroit is 3-3, and Detroit is getting 3 points.
All right, so for this one here, I could see things getting tough for Indianapolis. They do have a 4-2 record. They got a really nice defense, but my big problem is Phillip Rivers. I just don't know if he has what it takes to be really consistent enough for this team to win as many games as they're expected to. He still has a high turnover ratio. Doesn't play the ball that great. Shows his age every now and then. and they were down 21-0 against the Bengals, who are a pretty bad team on their own. And so, Indianapolis did make a nice comeback from that, using a no-huddle offense, which their head coach Frank Reich said they might go with from now on, as Philip Rivers seems to do really well in that situation. But still, I just don't know how things are going to go with them from now on. But either way, they are going against Detroit, who, they've actually been doing pretty well themselves. They got a 3-3 record. Defense is really shaping up. They haven't allowed, I think, like 25 or more points in a while. Worst game was easily against Green Bay in week 2, but, pretty early in the season at that point.
And they did beat the Cardinals.
Yeah, they beat the Cardinals, they beat the Falcons, and they beat the Jaguars as well, even though I probably shouldn't have said them last because that makes it sound like that was their best win. Definitely not. But still, they're 3-3 right now, which is, impressive for, how they're expected to do. And I think this will be a really close game. So I am going to go with Indianapolis to win, but I'm going to go with Detroit for the points. I think this is going to be a really close game with both defenses, playing better throughout the year. But Indianapolis will come out on top.
I have Detroit winning, so go Detroit.
Go Detroit? Okay. Go Stafford? King? Okay.
Yep.
I'm going Indianapolis to win and cover. I just can't ever pick on Detroit. I think 3 of my losses have been their wins, so I just don't think they're a good team. Stafford, I think, is over the hill.
All right, let's head on to the next one.
We got the Jets at Kansas City. Kansas City's 19.5 points.
That's the most I've seen in a while.
The Jets are 0-7. KC is 6-1.
Well, you always say that, like whenever there's one that's 10 points or more spread, you shouldn't really take that. You should always go with the other team to cover. But honestly, even though it's nearly 20, actually they do have to win by 20 or more to get the spread here since it's 19.5. I'm going to go with Kansas City. Honestly, the New York is just that awful, and they should have taken more advantage of how bad the Bills were on their offense. They didn't allow any touchdowns, and they scored one themselves, but Buffalo just kept getting downfield and at least getting field goals, and New York couldn't do it. They got only 8 yards in the second half of the game. So, Bills are honestly just kind of lucky there. But either way, Kansas City, they're not the type of team that would fall easily for a trap game, even though they did lose to the Raiders where they were 14-point favorites.
On a high note for the Jets, that is 8 yards more than I would have gotten.
Yeah. But either way, I'm going to go with Kansas City to win and cover here. If you got any of them on fantasy, please take them.
Yeah, I think Kansas City's obviously going to win. But I have the Jets covering. I don't think it's going to be a close game, but I don't think Kansas City's going to win by 20 points.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
For that, I think Kansas City would be like, okay, we'll let you score one. We feel bad.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can see the Jets scoring.
I got KC winning and covering. I mean, while a rule of thumb is not to take a team that's that many point underdogs, I don't see anybody stopping Mahomes, especially on the Jets, who they happen to be playing.
And they're just going through a fire sale, too. They plan on trading many people. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
On to the next one.
Next, we have New England at Buffalo. New England is 2-4. Buffalo is 5-2, and Buffalo is giving up 3.5 points.
Speaking of Buffalo, like I said, their offense really hasn't been that great, and Josh Allen has really fallen down to earth. We were kind of wondering, both of us, that why are people slandering Josh Allen so much, even when he's doing good? He said, why is there so much slander on him? I always felt like he was a decent quarterback, but these last few weeks have proven why they still had a feeling to doubt him, because now he just really hasn't been that good. He's still turning the ball over a bit more now, which is a big problem that he's had so far in his young career. And they're just not taking advantage of good opportunities, like, playing the Jets. They still won. A win is a win. But to have that game remain close in the first half, and even, technically throughout the game, it was a one-score game the whole time, is pretty embarrassing still.
Unacceptable.
Yeah, and it hurts any chances you have in the playoffs. It's hard to be taken seriously when you only beat the Jets by 8, which is, for many other teams, beating a team by 8 is nice, because a win is a win. But like I said, it's the Jets.
They could be going through a little bit of a stretch right now, though, too.
It's been a long stretch. It's been 3 to 4 weeks.
3 weeks. Okay, Marissa.
If I didn't watch New England play the Niners last week, I probably would have picked New England, but I'm going to have to go with Buffalo winning and covering here.
Yeah, New England has looked really bad as well. Yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty bad game for both offenses. They're just going to be pretty boring overall. Neither of them really have much rhythm. Cam Newton looked like a really good signing for a while, especially against the Seahawks, but we realize now why that was, because the Seahawks have an awful defense. And even when they beat the Raiders, by a lot, that was mainly because of their run game. It had nothing to do with Newton. And something else to look for with Newton is that he just doesn't like throwing to his right side. Which I don't know how I didn't really notice that earlier. I was watching film of him against the Seahawks, and even then, he just doesn't throw that much to the right side, and that probably has to do with old injuries that he's had before. And he didn't throw to his right side at all against the Niners before he got benched. And he even said himself that, I can't play like that again, or else if I go back to the bench, it might end up being permanent. So, just a lot of danger for him there. And maybe that could inspire Newton to play better, knowing that his time in New England might be on the line and such. But
That's why Carolina let him go.
Either way, I am going to go with Buffalo to win and cover, just because New England is more ineffective on offense.
I'm taking Buffalo, but New England to cover. I think it's going to be close enough. I think they're both going to play like crap, and New England won't win it, but they'll come close.
Okay.
Next, we have the Rams at Miami. Miami is getting 3.5 points. Rams are 5-2. Miami is 3-3.
All right, so Miami, they did go a little bit of a controversial change, especially at quarterback. Benching Ryan Fitzpatrick for Tua, and people wonder is Tua really ready?
Is he ready?
I believe Miami when they say he is ready. The only problem is those really, he might be doing well at practice. That's what I hear. He does so well at practice, but practice is only practice. Practice.
You're talking about practice.
Practice doesn't translate to how they do on the field, and that's the worry that I have. I think he still can be a solid quarterback in his first season, but either way, I still think they should have kept Fitzpatrick in just because he was already solid, and it doesn't hurt to keep your quarterback on the bench. You've seen that with Patrick Mahomes. He pretty much spent his whole rookie year on the bench. He had one start for the team. So I think Tua throughout the year will be good enough, but the problem now is that his first start, I think, is going to be rough either way, because he's going against the Rams defense, who, didn't really know what to think of them since they were going through the NFC East to start their season. So, any win was pretty much a given. But with the way they played against the Bears, even though the Bears, they really have a bad offense, Nick Foles he can only play well against Tom Brady for some reason. And either way, they have a scary defensive line. They got shut down corners, and that's going to be hard for Tua. I think the main objective for him this week is to just not get hurt and be careful when you run the ball, because he is a good quarterback when he's able to run.
But it makes no sense to start. Why not start him at the beginning of the year?
Because he was still.
The Dolphins were playing good under Fitzpatrick.
He was still healing a bit. I don't think he was exactly 100%.
Well, I think the Rams are going to chew him up and spit him out like a piece of old tobacco.
Oof. Yeah, but Miami, they do have some playoff implications. They're literally one spot out. The Colts right now have the 7th seed, and Miami is right outside of that. So you're going to wonder if they're going to want to play for the playoffs or just settle for getting a draft pick. What do they want to do? Do they want to make the playoffs? And I'm not exactly sure what they want to do, especially since they are talking about trading one of their players, Xavier Howard, who is a cornerback. So, overall, a little bit confusing on what I think they will do. But either way, going on to the pick, I feel like I've rambled on a lot here.
Oh, you have rambled.
Yes. I'm going to go with the Rams to win and cover. Marissa?
Hear me out. It's Tua time.
Oh.
I think
we have a Miami pick.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Miami here. I don't know. I just have a feeling he's going to do well. I think he's going to do well in the future in his career. But I don't know. I think maybe he'll just have a really good game.
So you're picking them to win.
Yes.
Okay, we got a Miami win here.
All right, and what's your pick, Dad?
Like I said, I think that Graham defense is going to give him a proper introduction to the NFL. Rams are going to beat him up. I'm sorry, but Rams.
All right, on to the next one.
Next, we have Pittsburgh at Baltimore. Pittsburgh is 6-0. Baltimore is 5-1, and Baltimore is giving up 3.5 points.
All right, so for this one, I'm surprised Baltimore is favored here. No, seeing how Pittsburgh has been playing lately, I was kind of doubting them a bit at first because they were not winning by much against poor opponents. But now they have really shown how good they can be by, completely dominating the Cleveland Browns and pulling off a nice win against the Tennessee Titans. Now, the problem with both of these teams here is that they both know how to have a good first half. They do really well in the first half of their games. Their problem, though, is scoring in the second half. Baltimore's last game against the Eagles, they had a really nice lead in the first half. Eagles couldn't do anything, and yet they let it get close.
They got complacent.
Yeah, and same thing with the Steelers.
I guarantee you that will not happen again.
Same thing with the Steelers, though. They got complacent. They had a big lead over the Tennessee Titans, and it came down to a field goal that Gostowski missed, but still, it could have been a much closer game. And Pittsburgh could have lost. So I think, my take here is that this will be decided in the first half, knowing how these teams have played in their second halves, just being so complacent on offense, really. And I'm going to go with Pittsburgh here to win, therefore cover. Marissa?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Baltimore to win and cover here. I don't know. Even though Pittsburgh's really, really good, I don't know.
You think Lamar's going to wise up here?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, his passing game hasn't been so good. Mark Andrews has been really quiet, I feel. So, yeah, that's a factor, too, of Mark Andrews, how he'll do. What do you think, Dad?
I think it's going to be a close game. Baltimore will win, and Pittsburgh will cover.
All right. Anything else from anyone?
That's about it.
All right, on to the next one.
Tennessee at Cincinnati. Cincinnati is getting 5.5 points. Tennessee is 5-1. Cincinnati is 1-5-1.
All right, so this one here, first off, congrats to Joe Burrow. He's been doing so well despite having such an atrocious offensive line. But
one win says a lot.
Yeah, but it's going to get even worse now that he's likely going to lose 2 more people on the line. I think maybe 3, but either way, it's just going to get worse for him. And that's what's really going to pull me into just go with Tennessee here. I was going to go with them in the first place because Tennessee is they're a better team. They really was able to stick with the Pittsburgh Steelers till the end of the game. Only lost on a field goal. And they showed to be better than I thought, after losing Taylor Lewan, their starting tackle, who was really important to them. So, seeing people like Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown still have good games despite that against a good Pittsburgh defense, I'm going to go with Tennessee to win and cover here. And, Marissa, you were kind of gesturing to me earlier, saying something. You were whispering something with a little bit of confidence.
Sweet nothings? Were they sweet nothings?
Yeah, I was just kidding. I'm not picking Cincinnati. I'm
okay.
going with Tennessee to win and cover.
I really thought you were trying to screw with me here. Dad?
I'm going with Tennessee and Tennessee to cover.
All right.
So clean sweep with everybody there. Next we have Minnesota at Green Bay. Minnesota's 1-5. Green Bay 5-1.
Well, this is going to be a fun game for anyone who owns anyone in that game on fantasy, especially at the wide receiver position. Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen have been having really great years. So same thing for Devontae Adams, even though he hasn't played that much, due to some injuries. Whenever he's on the field, him and Rodgers, almost said Brady there, Rodgers have just such a great connection with each other, and they're going to just go off. And, despite all that, saying how much fun it's going to be, I'm going to go with Green Bay for a landslide here. They're going to win and cover this one because Minnesota's defense is just awful, and Cousins is extremely inconsistent as a quarterback. Like I said, I think Jefferson and Thielen could still have good games, maybe even Rudolph, but I'm going to go with Green Bay to win and cover here.
Yeah, I have the same thing.
And I have the same thing also. It'll be a high-scoring game, I think.
Another sweep.
Next, we have Las Vegas at Cleveland. The Raiders are 3-3. Cleveland is 5-2, and Cleveland is giving up 2.5 points.
So, of course, we're going to spend a little bit more time on this one since this is about the Raiders, a somewhat local team in our hearts.
No.
Much closer than, well, not quite as close as Santa Clara.
Still in California.
All right. Either way, though, Raiders had a pretty bad loss against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, especially on defense. Brady just went off on them. How do you not go off on this Raiders team, especially when they have no pass rush? Brady only got touched once the entire game by Maurice Hurst.
And Tampa Bay's got a good offensive line.
Yeah, they got a good offensive line, and they have a lot of weapons. There's a lot of guys to cover there. There's not really many people who say, let's just double cover him. No, because, cover Gronk. Okay, well, now cover Evans, Godwin, Miller, too, doing really well. You have a lot of weapons, and Brady makes sure to utilize all of them.
Yeah, which Raider team is going to show up?
Yeah, mainly with defense. That's the big issue, is their defense. That's what holds them back. Everyone, including me, really wants Gunther gone. And, sometimes, maybe we're jumping on him a little too much because you got to consider that there's still a lot of young players there. He runs a complicated system, which maybe, that should be something for him to say, like, hey, maybe I should simplify it a little bit. Just get these guys used to playing in the NFL in the first place.
Well, they've been playing, come on. You can't, I don't believe in that, that to get used to playing in the NFL. They've been playing in the NFL for a while, for the most part, and they've been playing football for a while. So,
but still, that's the thing though, is systems really change how people do. How is it so many people, besides Brady, especially on defense, do so well against Belichick, but when you bring them onto another team, they play a lot worse. That's the thing. Systems can really change how people play. It might not apply to everybody.
Why didn't you say this earlier in the year with Gunther? You were all putting the blame on him instead of the system.
Well, no, believe me, I'm just trying to say one thing to maybe say, maybe that's why he's not. This is why it's happening. But overall, I still think that I'm just trying to offer.
So you still want to get rid of Gunther?
Overall, yes, but
okay.
I'm just trying to offer up a little something for maybe why.
Some hope.
Yeah, a little hope. I don't hate the guy, but I just wish he called things better.
You have a Gunther dartboard.
Yeah.
We weren't supposed to talk about that. Hey. Anyway, back to the main point of the game here. So, I actually plan on doing an article, not doing an article, but more of like a tryout thing for this website called Raider Ramble. And what I plan on writing about to start off is kind of looking at the Raiders' expectations in retrospect, which is one of the big things that were talked about before the season started was what are we going to get out of Carr? Is it a make or break year for Carr? Because, a lot of people still didn't have a lot of faith in him, missed their check down and all. And some people still thought, he can still show his 2016 form, looking at his completion percentage and just how well he's able to do it, especially, when it comes to turnovers and such. And, looking back at that now, what my answer is, we never had to worry about him in the first place. He's been really solid all year.
Oh, he's still having bad second halves. What did they score? How many points did they get last week?
They're not really having bad second halves.
What did they get last week in the second half? 6?
They got 10.
Ooh, that'll win you games.
Yeah, but you're looking at one game. The other game, sure, they got 16.
In their losses, I should say.
Yeah, in their losses.
He doesn't have a good complete game.
Well, no,
because you never know which team is going to show up.
Yeah, but I'm not saying
that goes for offense and defense.
Yeah, but this is mainly about the defense. Defense is the main issue. Yeah.
Are we not talking about the Raiders?
Yes, but I'm trying to say that we can't put this on Carr.
I can.
No, because for Carr here, he's been doing really well, and even with the Bills, that was a game they should have won, but there were some bad turnovers, especially the one by Waller, which really broke our backs. Carr had one too, but that also falls on the offensive line for not holding up well enough. And so mainly, I'm just saying that Carr isn't the problem whenever we lose. It's the defense being really bad and the turnover issue. Carr is a really good quarterback, and because we've given him weapons now, you got Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs, Nelson Aguilar, who's been a really good surprise with 4 touchdowns and I think in over 200 yards. You also got Henry Ruggs, his first-round pick, who's doing really well too. And Carr should be the man for a while now. Our big issue that we should have mentioned before the season started was defense. We spent so much money on people like Corey Littleton, Nick Kwiatkowski, and other like small guys like Demarius Randall and Umukamara who didn't even make it out of training camp. Acquisitions like those, we thought our defense was going to be much better. And other players too, like Jeff Heath and Malik Collins. We thought we were going to have a pass rush. We thought we were going to have some good linebackers and a good secondary too. We thought we were going to be built really well on defense, but that's not the case. Our pass rush is almost non-existent. Besides our game against Kansas City, linebacker's been really disappointing. Kwiatkowski's been good, but Littleton he looks lost all the time, and it could be because he's playing a different scheme and all, and that he didn't get much time to acclimate with the Raiders. In the secondary, it's been hurt a bit. I like people like Arnett and Mullen. They've been pretty good so far, especially Mullen. He's a stud. Even when the Raiders defense gets killed, he still finds a way to put up some good numbers. So, please lock him into the team. He needs to stay for years. So, anyways, what I'm trying to say is our big worry was the defense.
Is Brown back this week?
He is expected to come back to the facility this week, come off the COVID list. So there is a good chance that he will come back.
Brown is the offensive lineman too, highly paid offensive lineman.
Yeah. And when he's in, he does really well, but the problem is he hasn't been in that much. So, back to the Cleveland game, Mayfield had one of the best games of his career, going for 5 touchdowns. And after, a really bad first quarter where he threw 5 passes, missed all of them. And some people blame him for getting Beckham hurt because he was trying to make a tackle on the interception. He played a really good game after that. He went 22 of 23. Like I already mentioned, 5 touchdowns and a game-winning drive, a comeback in the fourth quarter. There were plenty of lead changes, but he kept them in the game and won it. But I just don't know if he can sustain that because he's done that before. Mayfield has had these games where he looks like a all-pro quarterback, and then after that he kind of just falls back.
I think any quarterback can be all-pro-ish if they have all time to throw, and the Raiders have no pass rush.
Yeah, and of course Gruden has said, you can't always take everything a coach says for granted, but I do want to believe him when he says that they plan on changing up their scheme because the reason why they're able to stop Mahomes was because they changed their scheme against him. They decided to have a spy to watch Mahomes. They only rushed with a few people, which really worked out, and they forced Mahomes to only throw long. And you saw how much that affected his game. He did not have a good second half.
Yeah, they're not going to go undefeated. So a loss. He had a bad game.
Yeah, but you could also say that bad game was contributed by how the Raiders played him in the second half. They made adjustments when they needed to. And the Raiders need to make adjustments. They need to come at Mayfield differently than they did with Brady. They need to get pressure. They just need to do more on defense.
So from looking at your pick, you think the Raiders are going to make that adjustment?
Yeah. It's going to be a shootout, I'm pretty sure. Either way. But I think the Raiders will get those few stops that they will need. That will be very key. I think the thing about Mayfield and Carr is that Mayfield will make more mistakes than Carr will. Carr is very careful with the ball, and he knows how to keep a drive going. He did pretty well under pressure against a great Tampa Bay defense. There's not really much I can say that went wrong with the Raiders' offense. They had really unfair circumstances, and Tampa Bay was really good, but they still scored 20. They kept that game close in the fourth quarter, and it was the defense that failed them in the end. So I'm going to go with the Raiders to win and cover here. Carr's going to have a great game, I believe, and Jacobs will have a bounce back. He'll get more than 17 yards than he did last week. Marissa, someone else can finally speak.
Yeah, I have the Raiders winning here.
All right.
Yeah.
And I'm going with Cleveland. I think the Raiders are going to have they're playing in Cleveland. They're not used to that kind of weather. I think it's going to be cold over there. They're not going to be able to get to not Mahomes. Not going to be able to get to Mayfield, and
he's still going to be missing Beckham, because that's one thing now is.
I think they're better without him. Get rid of the bum. All he is a distraction. He doesn't get the ball, he whines. He goes up and down the sidelines complaining, I want the ball. Well, you know what? Now take a bench and sit out. Okay, next game. We have the Chargers at Denver. Chargers are 2-4. Denver is 2-4 as well. And Denver is getting 3 points.
This one here, I can easily go with the Chargers here. They even though they beat the Jaguars, who aren't a good team, and that game was pretty close for a bit. Denver just bad. Drew Lock is extremely disappointing, which I honestly kind of expected.
They got Lock back.
They've had him back, and he still hasn't played well. And it's kind of what I expected. I feel like people really overhyped him for only playing a few games last year, and it was at the end of the season. What are you gonna lose at the end of the season? Now it actually matters on what he does, and he hasn't been playing that well. He's only thrown, I think, 1 or 2 touchdowns. I think he's only thrown 2. Last one he's thrown was in week 1. He just really hasn't been that good, and he was lucky to beat the Patriots after they picked him up on back-to-back plays. And so now I'm going to go with the Chargers here. Herbert, he's an easy sleeper for Offensive Rookie of the Year. I believe I said that last week as well. Herbert's just playing phenomenal football. Only 1 interception, which was in his first start, where he had to come in out of nowhere for Tyrod Taylor with the lung puncture. Everyone knows that situation. So
it should be snowing in Denver as well. So you don't know how an indoor team is going to fare against the elements.
Well, we already saw what Denver does on their own against the elements. They're just horrible. So I'm going to go with the Chargers to win and cover.
Yeah, I have the Chargers winning and covering here, but now I'm thinking more about what's going to happen in the snow and that kind of weather.
Oh,
right?
so I got you to think a little bit. So
little bit.
you're going to stay with the Chargers?
Yeah, I think they're going to win.
Yeah, and another thing too, just for playoff implications, I didn't think they were gonna have to worry much about the Chargers this year, but now I am kind of a little bit worried about them, especially when the Raiders played the Chargers. They always had their 2 games against them. It's gonna be really interesting.
I do like their quarterback.
Yeah, but still though, they're not good at holding leads, and their defense isn't that good either. Like I said, they allowed 29 points to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are just really not good on offense.
Well, we got a clean sweep because I'm picking them also. Next, we have San Francisco at Seattle. San Francisco is 4-3. Seattle is 5-1, and Seattle is giving up 3 points.
So we're gonna let you start off with this one here.
All right, the Niners had a really great game last week. Jimmy G looked good. Somebody who did really well for them was Jeff Wilson Jr. He's had 112 yards against the Patriots. Unfortunately, he got hurt, and I think towards the end of the game they had to take him out. And I think they had another injury as well. But I know Mostert's still going to be out this week. But the Niners lost Deebo Samuel for a few weeks as well. So I don't know. Even though they've played better the last 2 weeks, I don't think they're going to be able to beat Seattle, even though Seattle just lost. I don't know. I hope they do, but I think Seattle, it's going to be really hard to stop Russell Wilson. With their defense is doing better, yeah, but it's still not as good as it was as last year. So, I don't know. I think Seattle's going to win this one.
Is San Francisco getting any defensive players back this week?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay.
Their defense has been pretty, ever since they lost Boza and Solomon Thomas, it's been mostly steady at that position. But I'm going to go with Seattle to win this one just because they have a much better offense. Just let Russell Wilson cook. I don't think he's going to throw 3 interceptions again like he did against Arizona. I think they're going to learn a bit from their mistakes, but I also will still go with San Francisco to cover. I think they're going to find a way to make it close because Seattle's defense just shows up to be even more awful as the year goes on. Marissa, you already had your pick in, or what was it?
Yeah, so I had Seattle winning and covering. I don't think it's going to be a blowout or anything, but I just don't think it's going to be as close as you're saying.
Yeah. And Dad?
I'm going with the upset. I'm going with San Francisco to obviously win and they cover. So I don't think Seattle's defense will be able to stop Jimmy G. It's the first time I've ever said in my life. And it's going to be a shootout. And I think the Niners will just outscore him. Kittle will get 12 catches, and he will be my savior on fantasy this week.
All right. On to the next one.
New Orleans at Chicago. New Orleans is 4-2. Chicago is 5-2, and Chicago is getting 4 points.
Well, basically, all New Orleans has to do is just not be horrible on defense because Chicago's offense it's so inconsistent, so weak. They have such a hard time moving down the field, and they make it look so difficult.
And how did they lose to the Rams? I don't.
Because Rams have a good defense either way, and Rams didn't lose that by that much. It was still
Rams got killed by the Niners.
I wouldn't say they got killed. It was still a one-score game. One-score game isn't getting killed.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
The Rams were down by multiple touchdowns for most of the game. It may have ended at one score.
Yeah, but you could say that for other teams too. Like, Tennessee.
Okay, can we?
Well, yeah, you could say Tennessee got killed by the Steelers, but they ended up making it close in the second half. But either way here, basically, New Orleans doesn't really have to do that much against Chicago. Chicago, like I said, their offense really just isn't good. They still have a pretty good defense. They're going to do what they can to try to keep them in the game, probably force Breeze to make long throws or something like that. They'll have some strategy for him. But either way, I'm going to go with New Orleans to win and cover this one.
Now, what's the weather supposed to be like in Chicago? Traditionally the indoor teams have a hard time during the winter, and they're just not used to the elements.
That is true, but either way, then if you're not good with throwing the ball, just run it then, because they still got a great guy like Alvin Kamara. Yeah, he's still gonna run through pretty well despite how good Chicago's defense is, and that's why I got New Orleans winning and covering. Marissa?
Okay, so I thought about Chicago at first, but I actually am gonna go with New Orleans winning and covering. I don't know. I don't know. Chicago. Yeah, they're all right, but I think New Orleans is gonna win this one.
Yeah, Chicago just not
I'm
for me.
going with Chicago to win. I'm going with the upset. You're getting 4 points. They're at home. They're gonna deal with the weather, and I think they're gonna be, because Breeze does these quick outs. I think I see a pick six in his future.
Okay, well, that's something to completely roll out. But I think even if that did happen, New Orleans would still win and cover this one. Like I said, New Orleans they still have a better offense, and that's what it's going to come down to. And they still have a pretty defense too. It's decent. I won't say it's great. It's not as good as Chicago's, but they'll get the stops they need to against Chicago. And that's all I need to say about that. So on the next one.
We have Dallas at Philadelphia. Philadelphia is giving up 7.5 points. Dallas is 2-5. Philadelphia is 2-4-1. Wake up! Wake up!
Yeah. Oh God, this is the NFC East again.
Good thing it's a night game.
No, that's a bad thing. That means we have to watch it. It's not like it's not blended in with the morning and afternoon games.
But if you're having trouble sleeping. Too early.
There's not even any baseball to watch.
No!
Instead.
Basketball, come back now. Either way, though, I'm going to go with Philadelphia to win this one. They've played much better lately, especially Carson Wentz. He had a horrible start to the season. Still, I'm not saying he's perfect. He still makes a lot of mistakes, even against the Giants. But they still are able to pull out some wins, and they should be able to do that against Dallas. Dallas will be running a third string quarterback. Their offense is just so weak. I'm tempted to, if I have anyone on Dallas on my fantasy team, I'm tempted to drop them. Elliott, Gallup, Cooper, Lamb, he can stay. But everyone else, there's nothing I really see in them to do anything. And so I'm going to go with Philadelphia to win this one here easily. So they will win and cover.
Yeah, I have the same thing. I don't know. Dallas, they're just
stinky.
Yeah.
I get the same thing as well. So to round out the football week, we have Tampa Bay at Giants. Giants are getting 10.5 points. Tampa Bay is 5-2. Giants are 1-6.
This is going to be an easy one. Daniel, if anyone has Daniel Jones right now in fantasy, drop him right now. Now I'm not. I know benching him is the right thing to do, but no, just drop him altogether. He is having an awful year. He had such a good opportunity to have such a highlight play, and he got tackled by himself. You ever seen that play, Dad?
Yes.
Yeah, I could already tell you're laughing, Marissa, if you remember that. It's something about New York quarterbacks getting hit by ghosts. You know, remember Sam Darnold was talking about ghosts in the field last year, and now, what'd you call it? Daniel Jones gets tackled by one. You know, not the same stadium, but still same city that they both play for, not in. And
tackled by the turf.
Yeah, the turf monster. Either way, though, you know, Tampa Bay, they have a scary good defense. They're going to just run over Daniel Jones and anyone else they throw at them on offense. And Brady's going to have a really fun day. He's going to play the touchdowns. And I'm going to advise one of my friends who has him in fantasy to make sure he starts him. So, yeah.
What if I pick the Giants? No, just kidding. Yeah, I have Tampa Bay. No, I have Tampa Bay winning and covering. Yeah, this one's pretty easy.
Yeah, same thing. Clean sweep.
Yeah, plenty of sweeps here, I feel like, this week.
By this week, we have Arizona, Washington, Jacksonville, and Houston. We'll be talking about them next week.
Yep. And that pretty much concludes our episode of the week. Does anyone else have anything to say?
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. And hopefully I get that. No, eventually I will get that out for the Raider Ramble. I'm going to submit it to them. Hopefully they like it. And I'll probably share it somewhere too. I'll post a link and let you guys know on Instagram. All right. Goodbye.
Good night.
Goodbye.